Welcome to the Integration Station. I'm Naturally Ashley, your host, here to guide you down the rabbit hole into the world of psychoactive plants, frogs, and fungi. Good morning, you beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Integration Station. I'm Naturally Ashley, your host, here with a special guest, Keegan, who is the founder and chief vision officer of Mindful Meds. It's a wonderful brand that we've personally been working with. Keegan's story starts from addiction, depression, and anxiety. Keegan completely changed his life with the power of mushrooms and natural supplementation, vowing now to help to lead the industry in growth and optimization. He founded with integrity, built upon compassion, focused on fully supporting our community to heal. His community is now growing and everybody there is just optimizing their lives. Also, the world at large. This is a really exciting time. I'm really looking forward to sharing him with you.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network, here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Hello and welcome back to the Integration Station. I'm Naturally Ashley, your host here on Pace Radio, and I've got a special guest here, someone who's been in our network for quite a while now. This is Keegan from Mindful Meds. You'll see in his background there, so make sure you're looking them up. You might even recognize the logo. It's a brand that we absolutely love and we've worked with. I was inspired to really get into Mindful Meds and connect with Keegan because of what they were doing. Was making these crazy beautiful blends for not only working with mushrooms in a psychedelic way, but also in a way for immunity and for brain health and for all of these different and important things. You even have some new ones out that are just like called Happy or something, to help with that adaptogen style. And I love that you brought in the nutrition as well as the psychedelics, and you really said, like, look, it's all a nutritional supplement, and in fact we're gonna make it a supplement that's easy and accessible for everybody. So I'm just gonna pass over to you now, Keegan, so you can start sharing your story of what really got you here, because I think it'll be really insightful for anybody listening today.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for bringing me into your community. I know I was one of the early people in your Signal group, and now it's really grown. And it's been fun to just be kind of a fly on the wall. I learned lots through that group, and it's been, so thank you. Thank you for what you do for the community. So I guess I'll just circle back to the beginning. There's probably no better way to start, but I grew up in Calgary, and I thought I had just a really amazing upbringing. I can tell you, like, my high school years, when I look back on it, were phenomenal. I loved going to school. I loved playing sports. I loved being there just to kind of goof around. I was never really there for the classwork. But I enjoyed going to school, and the more I talk to people about their high school experience, the more I find out that, like, nobody really had that experience that I've talked to. Most people hated their high school experience. And so things were going great for me, and things, continuing right out of high school. I started working for the Joey's Restaurant Group and really quickly kind of rose to a very high position within their organization. And then I decided to go back to school. So I was about 20, turning 21 when I went back to school. And I went to Lethbridge College and then transferred into the University of Lethbridge. And, and things were just literally going like this. Like I was just, in this amazing place in my life, and I was so happy about the trajectory of where I was going. And then one night I did something really stupid, and it really changed the trajectory of the next 9 years of my life. So if anybody can relate to that, where just one day or one event or one night completely changed things, that's really what happened to me. And so I ended up going through this breakup, and I was really just not prepared for what was to come. And at the same time, within the matter of months, I went through this breakup, and my parents had decided to retire, and they were on this trip around the world. And so what I learned was that like I really wasn't grounded whatsoever. Like I was really relying on the pillars of my life to kind of keep me standing tall and keep me moving forward. And as soon as that rug was pulled out from under me, I did not respond well. And so it started with this like really deep bout of depression. And I remember I had just transferred into the university, which was like a real goal of mine. I went from the college to the university, and I went, because we were going to school in Lethbridge, it was only about a 2.5 hour drive from Calgary. So I was actually out there with a whole bunch of friends of mine from high school. And I remember getting transferred into the business program, and I honestly couldn't even keep my head up. I was so depressed. I couldn't absorb any knowledge. I couldn't participate in class. I couldn't have conversations with the people that I'd known for years. And within about a month, I had dropped out of university, and all of a sudden I'm drinking in the evenings to fall asleep. And it happened so quickly for me, man, oh man. Like I was really one of the last people that ever thought they'd become an addict. My father deeply struggled with alcohol until about the last 10 years of his life. And, I had this in my mind that I would never, ever become anything like my dad. And I can tell you, all of a sudden I found myself hanging out with the wrong people, a totally different crowd than I was used to. And I'm really just like kind of partying, and I've dropped out of school. All of a sudden I don't have a purpose. I'm waking up super depressed. And, for anybody that can relate to that, like even a weekend of drinking, generally that Monday you're having super bad anxiety. All of a sudden I'm on like a 9-month bender. And I had picked up a job in New York City that summer that started in May. I had got the job a year earlier. And when I flew out to New York and got to New York, I was a completely and utterly different version of the person that they had hired. I had gained probably 30 pounds. I looked different. I acted different. I was totally broken inside. But yet at that stage I had this capacity to kind of hide it somehow and like pretend like things were okay. But part of this job was that I got this 1-bedroom apartment in this like beautiful Long Island City apartment building. And in the beginning, we used to go up to, I don't know how we got up there, but we used to go up to the rooftop, and we would like smoke cigars and drink champagne. And I remember going up there one night for the first time and being on my own. And I'll never forget this night. I went up there on my own, and I was 28 stories in the air. And I remember like my body being against this concrete barrier and kind of looking down at the ground. This is the summer of 2008, and there was a garbage strike. So the ground was littered with garbage. And I just thought to myself, I'm better off throwing myself off this building. And the only reason I didn't do it, I was so fucking close, was that my parents were on this trip around the world, and I knew that they were going to have to leave their dream retirement trip to come and honestly scrape me off the ground. And so began this journey of like, I was putting these like little carrots to chase just to survive. And at the end of that summer, my sister got married. And I was the MC of her wedding. And so I was just like, all I got to do is make it to her wedding, and then I can commit suicide. And then I made it to the wedding, and I got through the wedding, and believe it or not, I actually met my current fiance that night at the wedding. But I was still super depressed. We didn't get together for a couple of years after that, but the reality is then another friend of mine got married, and then it was Christmas. And I just kept on trying to stay alive to get to the next kind of events in my life. Really sad existence. I was not the guy that I used to be anymore. I was a completely different version of myself that, to be honest with you, I never thought I would ever find again. And it's been this like relentless journey of trying to trying to get back to that guy that just really felt amazing and proud of himself and just really wanted to make an impact on the world. And so, part of this story is about how I got back there. So, so now it's like 2009. I'm drinking in the morning now. I'm getting the shakes, and I can't really get through a day without alcohol. And this went on for years. And I was always entrepreneurial. I was always able I always had ideas, and I started several companies in the past, and certainly don't consider myself an expert by any means, but certainly put a lot of time and effort into the craft of entrepreneurship. And but really in those days, clearly wasn't doing it to my full capacity whatsoever. But still kind of managed to stay afloat somehow. So the years went by, and really I started to get sicker and sicker. I ended up in the hospital several times with pancreatitis. I remember, one of the first, when Elisa and I finally decided to get together and make it official, it was 3 or 4 years after the wedding in 2008. And the first week we officially got together, I felt like I was getting shot in the stomach and had no idea what the hell it was. I thought I was dying, there's no doubt about it. And it turns out I had pancreatitis for the first time. And I was like 25 or 26 years old. I was really young. They don't often see people my age with pancreatitis. And so I ended up in the Foothills Hospital in Calgary, and it was supposed to be a 3-day stint. And I remember I was literally walking out the door because my pancreas had kind of, the swelling and the inflammation of the pancreas had gone down. So the pain was gone, and they were about to release me. And I got a tap on the shoulder from the nurse that had been taking care of me for a few days. And she goes, "I'm really sorry, but you got to sit down. We've got some news to share." And I was like, "Oh, fuck. What is this going to be?" And it turns out I got a staphoid blood infection that was completely rampant in my bloodstream. And the only way for it to go away, which was not guaranteed at all, was to be on the highest dose of antibiotics that's available on the marketplace today, which is a drip. And you have to see the whole course of the drip through. And it was 28 days. So I sat in a hospital bed in my first week of my new relationship for 28 days. In total, I was there for 31 nights. And, you think that would, be life-changing for me. But I was still, when I got out, I didn't go into rehab. I didn't go into treatment. I didn't go and try to figure out how to heal. I just was really on this path to destroy myself and get off planet Earth and just have the pain go away. And so the years went on, and things just got, worse and worse. My health started to decline. And, fast forward to 2016, we're living in Victoria. I own a property management company. And I had this really morbid thought in my mind that I could potentially get cancer, and that would be the end of things. And I started to literally lose feeling in my limbs and in my feet. There was this strange numbness that was going on throughout my body. And so finally, and honestly, my eyesight was going blurry as well. And I really thought I was basically going to die, and that was okay with me. And I ended up getting literally wheeled into the hospital. My health was so poor, I got wheeled into the hospital. And right away, they ran my blood work. And within half an hour, the nurse came by with a doctor and another specialist. And they kind of entered that little room where the draperies go aside, and Elisa's there with me. And she just walks in and goes, "I got some news, and it's going to change your life forever." And I was just like, "Oh shit!" And it turns out I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And believe it or not, that diagnosis actually saved my life, because what ended up happening next was I had to spend 3 days in the hospital just for my blood sugar to acclimatize. And I'll never forget one thing that the nurse had said to me during that conversation, just to circle back. She said, "If you didn't get here in the next hour, you were going to slip into a coma, and almost nobody survives these types of comas. Like you'd likely die. So I got there just in the nick of time, and so I had 3 days to spend in the hospital, and I remember thinking about what my funeral was going to look like, and replaying it in my head time and time again about, who was going to be there and what was going to be said about me and what legacy did I leave. And I'll tell you, man, that version of my funeral, I did not like what I saw. And by this time, my parents are at the hospital, Lisa's there. They're freaking out because I had really hidden this. I think they kind of knew, but I had really tried my best to hide this from the world. It was my secret, and so I got offered help. I got offered to get into a rehab facility in September of 2016, and I ended up going to a place called The Orchard, which is just off the west coast of Vancouver, and their whole program is kind of based around mindfulness techniques. So like, you get in, and in the morning there's yoga and breath work and music therapy and art therapy and lots of healing modalities that I found very interesting. And I just, at the time, I didn't believe in any God. I didn't believe in anything spiritual because how could I? I was in this state where I thought the world had kind of forgotten and given up on me. And so I needed to go to a place that wasn't like completely AA, God focused. And I found one, and it worked. And it really did. I threw everything I could possibly think of at the wall. And what I mean by that is, like, you're in these group counseling sessions, and I was the first guy to talk, and I was just trying to figure out how the hell I got there. Rehab is really just about trying to reverse engineer how you ended up there. And for me, it was the first time in a long time I was able to clear the air. I was holding all this stuff on for 9 or 10 years, and I had a lot of baggage. I had a lot to work through, and I still have a lot to work through. I mean, the process of healing, I don't think it ever ends. But there was a conversation, and this is going to kind of lead us into how I got to mindful meds, because one conversation changed my life. And it was the day before I was ready to graduate the program. I was there for 28 days, and this is day 27. And I think there's about a group of 30 of us in there, and you spend 16 hours a day with these people, both male and female. And so you get to know these people on a level that you don't even get to know your friends on these types of levels. You get to know them in such a deep connection, because you're sharing some of the most vulnerable things that have ever happened to you in your life. And so you feel really connected. At least this group was very connected. And so I remember this like it was yesterday. So what happened was, the director of the program sat us in a circle, and she sat in the middle, and she said, look to the person to the left of you. So we all looked to the person to the left, and she goes, that person's dead in 365 days. And I'm just like, no way. Absolutely no way. Not this group. Maybe everybody else, but not this group. And then she goes, look to the person to the right. And so we look to the right, everybody's thinking, like, what the hell's going to happen now? And she goes, that person's back in one of these facilities in less than a year. And so I remember just kind of thinking when I got out, like, how can I take my skill set? How can I take my, everything that I've learned in business and figure out how to bring it to this community, to work with the addicts, to work with the people that have PTSD and depression, because, I've walked a mile in those shoes, and I want to give back somehow. And so my first thought was, I'll go and I'll make enough money to send somebody into rehab every year. So that was my goal. So I got out, and right away it was just like, how do I make a ton of money? It's a backwards way of thinking, but really that's still where my head was at. Like, how do I make a ton of money, get myself, caught up to the rest of the world? And because I always felt like I was behind. And so that's kind of where my head was at. And I always wanted to figure out how to circle back and help this community, but I had no idea how I was going to do it. And then 9 months out, I get a call I hadn't stayed very connected to the group. You know, you think you're going to stay connected, and it, you know, for us, it didn't happen. And I get this call, and it's my buddy, and he goes, dude, you're not going to believe what I've just found out. And I was just like, what's going on? And he goes, 9 of the 30 people are dead. 9. So there were 6 overdoses, 2 suicides, and a murder. She's still missing. And I just thought to myself, holy shit, this idea of sending someone into rehab, it's not going to work. Nobody's surviving this stuff. And so I began getting super fascinated about what's happening in these rehab facilities and these treatment centers. And I started to really try to poke around to figure out what's going on. And what I came back with is, you know, only 3 to 5% of people that end up going into a treatment facility ever remain sober. So the odds of, you know, spending your $30,000, $40,000 to go to one of these, you know, rehab facilities, some aren't that expensive, but, you know, the real private ones are really expensive to go to, and the odds are just not very good. So that always stuck with me. It was just like, how can we make a bigger impact? And in fact, the end goal for Mindful Meds, even from the day that we started, was always to end up with a treatment center of our own and to do things totally differently. So maybe we'll talk about that later, or talk about that in another podcast. But so I just continued to go and make money, and the truth is I felt like shit. I felt like I was not in alignment with my purpose. I was, you know, doing some big things in business. We became master franchisors with a brand new franchising concept that we bought from the States. But I remember driving to my office in the mornings and getting to a certain set of lights, and my heart would just start pounding. Like I would just go into my office and flip my laptop open every day and look at my emails, and it was nothing but problems. I was literally just with a fire extinguisher every day spraying out problems. And I had bad anxiety, and I can remember just being so close to a relapse that I actually ended up telling Elisa and calling my mom and dad and saying, you guys, like, I'm not going to make it another day, because I just can't take the stress. And I'm letting you guys know that this might be the end of the streak. And at that time, I hadn't had a drink in 3.5 years. And so I knew I had to leave that project. I left it in the dust. I literally just made an exit. Had no idea what I was going to do next, but I was very passionate about cannabis. I'd become somewhat of, definitely not an expert, but I really enjoyed learning about cannabis and the different healing modalities. And it was really, for me, in post-recovery, I found it very helpful with cravings, with stress levels, with sleep. And so I decided for the first time in my life to try to get involved with something I was actually passionate with. And I started a cannabis company. My role for this company was to really take a concept that was going on already in Calgary and to expand it into the Victoria market, which is at the time that I went into rehab, which is where I was living. And sorry, Ash, and to the community, I hope this isn't going too long. I'm going to get to how Mindful Meds started right now. So here's what happened. So my role, because I had the property management company, was to get an office, to go and source all the cannabis, to build the team. We didn't have a single client. And so the very first night we're there, there's a knock on the door, and we're in this farmhouse, and we're just like, oh my God. You know, the one rule that we had is that nobody could know where we were. And in walks this guy, and he goes, hey, I'm here to do some work on the kitchen. He looks over at the kitchen table, and there's all this cannabis, and he's just like, whoa. He's like, don't worry, guys. I'm actually a mushroom farmer, and my life goal is to help heal people with mushrooms. This is in 2019, and this is a dead true story. And this is where I was at in my recovery. I was so close to relapse. This guy literally just walks into my life. He gives me this bone-crushing handshake. And I just kind of thought, this guy's got something so interesting to me. I can't really put a finger on what it is, but I want to get to know this guy. So he was literally doing a renovation on the kitchen. So he started to come every day. And I got to know him. And what I found out was this guy's living in a trailer with his dog. He had just been divorced. He had lost $550,000 in a bad business deal. But yet he showed up with this smile and this energy. And it was just like, man, like, what does this guy have? So after I did my role in the cannabis company, I go back to Calgary and he sends me some mushrooms. And I go to Walmart. This is now September 2019. I go to Walmart and I buy myself a pill press. There's very little conversation going on in Alberta about microdosing at this time. It's not like what was happening in British Columbia, where they were way ahead of the game in Vancouver. There was nobody talking about this. And if you were so far ahead, that's amazing. But certainly within my group, there's no conversation about this. And so I got on some microdosing pills and had this really prolific thing happen. I was waiting for something big to happen and I didn't feel anything. Nothing really was like resonating. And then all of a sudden, on the 12th day, I ended up writing this journal entry, which actually was a phone call. And it was an exit phone call to my previous business partners. And it was amazing because instantly light bulbs were going off and it was just like, holy shit, my brain is functioning differently. I'm problem solving differently. I've never written a phone call down in my entire lifetime. And what I did was I picked up the phone that second. I called these guys, got them on a phone call, read word for word this letter that I had written. And why that was important was because I was dealing with two narcissists. And one's a sociopathic, dangerous narcissist, and I had to do it the right way. I had to word everything the right way before there was like two rams coming together. And a beautiful thing happened. I've never heard from either of them again. That was the end of it. And it was just perfect. It was just like I was able to bury some major stuff and do it the right way. And so I was instantly like, wow, there's something here. I've never responded to something like this. And so, but I still knew I didn't know enough to start a business, because from day one, it was like, how can I learn enough so that we can, in the end, work with the practitioners? That was the goal from the beginning. How can we be taken so seriously, and how can we do this at such a good capacity that we can get respect from the doctors and, that the medical community, the therapists, the social workers. And so from day one, this has been the process of how do we design a program that can be respected at that level. And the first thing that came to mind to me was, first of all, I need to become somewhat of an expert on this. And to do that, like to get the fire in my belly to do this, I decided to run a self-funded study. It's never been done before in Canada, particularly not done from anybody that didn't have public, the public funding. And so we did a comprehensive 40-day microdosing study with 42-day microdosing study with 40 participants that had never microdosed before. And it was something I'm really quite proud of. To be honest with you, I teamed up with a friend that had a psychology background in Calgary, and we put together a 13 question questionnaire. And it was really just trying to get a baseline of people's mental health. And so once we had the initial baseline, we provided the medicines and we had the 40 people. It was amazing what happened. I mean, I threw this out in the wind, and within 2 days, we had 40 people that wanted to be a part of this. And so it was really neat to see the response. And the one contingency was that nobody could have microdosed before they started. So we got everybody involved. We supplied the medicines. We put everybody into a Slack channel because, of course, it was right at the start of COVID. And 42 days later, we ran the exact same microdosing study, or not study, excuse me, the questionnaire. And then we hired someone to tally the data from the first and the second questionnaire. And the results were enough to make your jaw hit the floor. Not even kidding. It was unbelievable the way that the needle moved in these people's lives. Their mental health, their clarity, their brain fog, their creativity. And I instantly knew that we needed to get these medicines into people's hands. 2 people of the 40 actually came forward afterwards. I have full 1-hour testimonials of both of them. And this study, this simple little study with a guy that was like just doing this out of his apartment, just trying to figure things out, instantly saved 2 people's lives. There was a girl that I got to meet in the study who had been in therapy for 20 years and she tried every healing modality that was available, all the SSRIs, and she had already pre-planned her suicide. She was about to do it, and a friend of hers said, "Listen, I've heard about this study. You should check it out." And to be honest with you, it saved her life. So no matter what ended up happening, I already felt like we were making an impact with the study, and that's how it started.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Keegan. I'm going to cut a break right now so that we can share some of our sponsors and what they're doing. But honestly, I can't wait to have you back in a couple more minutes and we can dive into the study a little bit more and some of the other work and findings that you found out on mushroom since.
Okay,
so I'll see you in a couple minutes.
Awesome.
Okay.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
Growing your own vegetables, flowers, or even medicinal plants can be a challenge without the right equipment and proper know-how. At BMA Hydroponics, not only are they your urban horticultural experts and suppliers, but their staff holds the customer's needs paramount to making a sale. Family-owned with decades of experience and knowledge, they offer free advice in person, by phone, or email. BMA Hydroponics wants to ensure you have the advice you need, which is why you'll find tips and tricks on different ways to grow, like wick, ebb and flow, drip, or aeroponic system, as well as other helpful links at bmahydroponics.com. If you can't find what you're looking for, just let them know, and they'll do everything they can to get what you're looking for. At BMA Hydroponics, each staff member also possesses a federal exemptee MMAR license, making their strong suit empathy, experience, and dedication to their customers. Because when you know how to grow, you'll have results that make you proud. BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario. Visit bmahydroponics.com.
Let's share PACE everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education.
CP operates a medicinal cannabis signing clinic. If you want to grow your own medicinal cannabis and are located anywhere in Canada, then I'd like to suggest that you give them a call. They can be reached at 1-613-967-9888. That's 1-613-967-9888, and grow on with CP.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, Keegan. So Keegan was just sharing with us, this study that he did on his own, one of the first in Canada, and just, I'd love to hear more about what these findings were. These 40 people that, they were interviewed or had to do a questionnaire before 40 days of dosing and then after. And you said that the results were extreme, which I know from personal experience and just doing this work. But for anybody who's new to this realm, please let us know, what you found out and even what you found out since this study, because it was quite a while ago.
Yeah. Honestly, the study was done for me just to give me that fire in my belly to take this and turn it into a business. And I felt like I needed more time. I felt like I didn't want to shotgun something too quickly. Like, I really wanted to respect the process and get to know how to bring the best medicines forward. It's been a long time since I've looked at the data from the study, to be honest, but I do share it on our website. It's anybody can access it. We have all the data there, but things like overall, one of the questions I remember being, do you think mushrooms can be can make a significant impact on mental health? And I believe 40 out of 40 people said yes. And so that was one. I remember.
That doesn't happen. Like, there's usually somebody who disagrees.
Yeah, it might have been 39 out of 40. It could have been 39.
But still, it's incredible, like, those odds. You don't get that in rehab. You're not signing a questionnaire when you leave saying, I feel like this could make a big headway, because you're hearing already that the data is, most of you are going to die, or most of you are going to be back here, which is the truth. It's a shitty truth right now, but it can be changed, which is something I really commend you for, making waves in that area.
I think it can be changed. And I'm deep into, so my story hasn't been perfect. Do you want to wrap up the study? Like, the study can be found on the website for anybody interested in reading about it and seeing the data. All you have to go, hit up the website, mindfulmeds.io. It's right on the homepage. And
it's right behind you.
What's that?
It's right behind you.
So just hit our website and you can find it. And we share all the data. And, for a long time with that, like, I remember not even wanting to call it a study because I was so scared of like what people were going to think. And so it was like we were referring to it as a focus group. And then all of a sudden I got it, the study or the focus group, it doesn't matter to me what we call it, actually got me a seat at the table with some psychiatrists, with some doctors, with some herbologists. And I was thinking, geez, they're gonna laugh, about this, and I'm gonna be laughed out of the room. But really, it was the opposite. I was highly commended for being just a regular guy that was just trying to make an impact, to put something together like this. Because the truth is I put my life on hold for like 90 to 100 days. This was my full-time thing. Of course, I was using my own money to fund it. It was all based on my time. But it ended up being one of the most rewarding things I'd ever done in my whole entire career. And so I had this this illuminated feeling in my heart, which I now know is like, I finally found my path. And it was the first time I'd ever felt that. I had started before this 7 or 8 companies, and I had never felt anything like this. Like it was the first time in my life that I was so excited. And the process for us was, I knew that I had to reverse engineer anything that I've ever done before. And what that meant was not thinking about any dollar signs, not thinking about the money side of it whatsoever. And it was the first time in my life I'd ever operated this way. The old me was, how do we make as much money as possible in the shortest amount of time? I don't care what I'm working on. I don't care about the impact. I don't care about helping the world. I just wanted to make money because I felt I was so behind because of my years with my addiction. And so I knew that I had to change the way that I was operating. And so not only did we do the study, after the study was done, it took us 19 months to bring a product into the marketplace. 19 months of full-time work, 2 of us. My partner was actually one of the 40 people in the study, Brett Ellis. And he's the one that has come in and designed all of our blends. He's helped us source literally the best raw materials that you can possibly source anywhere in the world today. And it took us a very long time to get this right. We tried many different things. We also bought the equipment necessary to make the most consistent product in the marketplace. And one of the things that we're really proud of here, Ashley, is that we've now been open since, I believe it was February of 2021. And we've got a lot of pills in the marketplace, well over 1 million. And the truth is, we've never had to do a single return in the history of our business, ever.
That's right there on your website. We'll return money.
Yeah, and the truth is, we've never had to. We've never had to do it. And to be honest, like, I don't know how far that's going to go, and I don't expect that's going to be forever. But it's something we're very proud of. And the only way you can have that kind of track record is to make sure that you're bringing the best product forward. And I'll tell you, I know that there's 1,000 microdosing companies out, that have opened up here in Canada. People can access it anywhere. Most people have a friend down the street that is growing mushrooms in their garage and, packing pills in their garage. Not all mushroom companies are built the same. Hands down, period. One of the things that we're doing here that nobody else is doing in the market today, and if they are, I personally don't know anybody doing it, is anything that you see in pill form today from us has been tested. And the way that we do our testing is completely different. We actually use an indigenous elder. So we've brought in that element of working with the indigenous community, and anything you see in pill form has been tested for heavy metals, excessive mold content, pesticides, and fertility. Like, how powerful are these mushrooms actually? Because you really can't tell by the naked eye. There's some things that can help with that process of trying to identify, how healthy the mushrooms are. But that's one thing that we're doing that we're very proud of.
Yeah, you guys are doing so much that, there is to be proud of, and yet you still are this, humble, regular person, which I really appreciate. And I think that's one of the things here with the medicine too, like Paul Stamets said, it just like makes people nicer. Like old you that was like, make money as fast as possible. You're changing that default mode network, that DMN, from this depressed, addicted guy into this heart-centered man of purpose, man of service. And, I think the medicines really do humble us in that. And, I love that, there's so much that's groundbreaking here, but at the same time, you can still share these vulnerable parts, and, it's all of it. Everything is just so important right now, especially mental health crisis, the amount of people addicted. They say the average person's addicted to 8 things. Most people aren't even aware of that.
Wow.
How many, it's only the people who are, it's only the recovering addicts that are aware that they may be addicted to something. Like right now, I love, chocolate and walnuts. Dark chocolate, good for you. I studied nutrition. Yeah, I know, good for you. Cacao ceremony, amazing. Same with walnuts, great. But I want to eat those things like 3 meals a day, all the time. I'm like, there's something in it, whether it's the sugar, maybe they're still putting sugar in the dark chocolate, I don't know. But my body's saying that there's still something else that I want just a little bit too much of. I don't get that with, I wouldn't get that if I wasn't addicted to something else before, or if I couldn't admit it. And I know that that's just like a slight thing, but there are many different substances, and it happens to everybody, whether it's cell phones or, a food of choice or a behavior. And I know the default mode network is something that you've had a lot of success in. I'd love to pick your brain about that. Sure. I know it's a little off what we were talking about there, but I think it ties in really well too. So what can you tell us about that?
Well, this research really came from Robin Carhart Harris and the Imperial College of London in 2018. And really what they were trying to figure out is like, what the hell is going on in the brain when people are on mushrooms or psychedelics in general? And they really thought that there was like these fireworks that were going on. Like they expected to find something incredible. And what ended up happening was they figured out that the cerebral blood flow that goes to the default mode network, and the default mode network, I know you've talked about this on podcasts, but for anybody that doesn't know, is really in neuroscience considered to be the grand central station of your brain. And so if you are, depressed, if you have anxiety, if you have OCD, if you have eating disorders, if you're, if you're a narcissist, a lot of your time is spent in this portion of your brain, this default mode network. And what this study proves is that the blood flow that goes to the default mode network actually shortcuts that blood flow. And what ends up happening is it forces your brain to start communicating, so creating new neural pathways, neuroplasticity. And all of a sudden, you're starting to behave a little bit different. And you're starting to act a little bit different. And you're starting to circle back to what I was saying before about, that letter that I wrote. Really, that was like my brain was completely functioning differently than any time ever in the past. And so that research has been fascinating, and it really has started to prove that the efficacy of some of these medicines.
I think it's really funny too, that self-experimentation. That was something I did maybe even the same year or close to it. It was like 12 days of microdoses, but I did it as like the 12 days of Christmas, but it was the 12 doses before Christmas. And 12 days is all it takes for like these really extreme changes. And I love that it was the same number for you, that somehow, there was that consistency, because it wasn't anything that we've ever talked about before. But that's really what it takes. I think even 10 to 12 days, I think, would make a huge impact in somebody, and just in these small doses where you don't even feel them. And then bam, there it is. This reborn version of yourself that you can start to see and start to communicate with. And it's wonderful. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we have people, one of the coolest parts of my job is I'm fairly accessible. I give my personal cell phone number in the signature of my email. And a lot of our clients, in the beginning of this, I opened myself up to people I've never met, people I've never known, but giving them half an hour, 45 minutes of my time and just sharing what I've learned with them. And one of the things that, we're really passionate about here at Mindful Meds, amongst many things, but is helping people get off of these SSRIs, helping people get off of their anxiety medication. And, some of the beautiful parts of my job is to watch these success stories happen and unfold, and then get to hear about how they're doing 2 or 3 months on, down the line. And man, it's just absolutely brilliant. Just yesterday, I had 4 different people. I screenshotted them all because it was just such a cool day. Reach out to my personal cell phone number and share their story of success. And I just thought, man, I couldn't be more grateful for doing what I'm doing right now. And, this is what gets me out of bed in the morning. I jump up excited to do stuff like this. And it's just, to me, it seems really simple, right? Like we haven't had to create something that is, synthetic or chemicalized, that involves machinery and all sorts of chemicals and things like that. I mean, this is using what the universe has provided in regards to plant medicine, and what we've done is, and what we've learned is that using different nootropics and adaptogens and combining them in a way with the psilocybin and other functional mushrooms, man, the outcomes are just unbelievable. They really, really are unbelievable. And so, if you're interested, one of the things that our company has is we offer probably one of the most comprehensive microdosing guides available in the world. It's 62 pages long. Our team took hundreds of hours to put this together. We just launched it in December. You can access that piece of material for free. So if you're interested in just wanting to learn or wanting to know more about us and our products, or just about psychedelics in general, come and access the guide. It's available for free at the bottom of our homepage. We'll send it to you. There's no obligation to purchase from us. And we highly recommend for everybody, before they start their journeys, to get themselves educated and to take those steps. And what we're finding is the people that actually take the time to get educated are the ones that have the most success on the medicine. And because you hear this a lot, but there is no better way to explain this. This is not a magic pill. There has been no scientific data
that shows if you simply just take this pill, it's going to change anything. And so what this pill does is it makes other healing modalities so much more accessible. And not just healing modalities, but like things like breath work, yoga, meditation. You can access these things so much easier. But it also, in almost every anecdotal case of microdosing that I've ever heard, people start to eat healthier. So you're almost more conscious about what you're putting into your body. And so it's amazing that way. So many people are having success using this just as a helpful tool to just be healthier in general. But of course, things like exercise and sleep and getting sunlight, it just seems to make all those things easier to access. Would you agree, Ashley?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm taking a lot of notes here because I'm going to add the links in the bottom. But, I'll just even say from direct experience, after I got sober, I was working with the medicine to help me, but also tapping into like Kundalini yoga to help me get to that meditation point, because it was so foreign to me, like to sit with myself after all those years of drinking was harder than quitting, even talking about it. Like, I feel it, but that really helped. And another thing that just happened naturally in that time was that I wouldn't eat anything really from the grocery store anymore unless I could grow it myself. I'd get quinoa from the bulk barn because I'd hear it was healthy, and I'd try to sprout it. And if it didn't sprout, I'm like, can't trust that from that store. But like, let's find somewhere where I can get it from. I learned a lot about organic in that time. Not everything that says it's organic is that good. You have to know where you're sourcing, and I got really good at that stuff. So eventually, when I went to go learn more modalities and get certified in some areas, nutrition was one of those ones that really came up. So where I went was the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. So some of the founders of that school are like Dr. Andrew Weil, who was like ancient psychonaut back in the Harvard Psychedelic Club, Deepak Chopra, who did that psychedelic movie. So they call it the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. It's the world's largest nutrition school, and they bring together like all of these amazing ancient psychonauts. And you wouldn't think about it, but that whole integration term, the way that they bring in the meditation, they teach it in a way that as important as nutrition is and how much they teach the dietary theories, it's really that's our secondary food. Our primary food, the reason why kids can like play all day and forget to eat is, they're tapped into this primary food, the stuff that really feeds you, like passion and purpose and fun and joy, these things that we remember when we're working with these other medicines. And so they found this beautiful way in this illegal realm to do something really powerful, and we're really at the forefront. They still don't teach psychedelics in there. I hope when they do, they call me up, but I did. Yeah.
I like that. I've never heard of what you just said there with the primary food being things like purpose and passion and joy. Love that. Yeah, absolutely.
They're full of theories like that, and they really hit home for me, and I can see how it unfolded the way that it did. And these natural things, like even what Terence McKenna said, is that one of the reasons why psychedelics were so important in this time was because meditation just takes too long. Even if people are aware of it, and even if people are doing it, if they've never seen that realm, if they've never been there, it's really hard because you have no idea what it is. It's like somebody who's stuck in the default mode network that just can't do better because they've never seen it. A mom who yells at their kids all the time. Why? Because they never saw anything else. It's once they see that other alternative, they open up. And this is what these psychedelics do. They help us, I think, just remember the other things that we saw, again, like being forced to remember, because now that neurogenesis is happening. It's really beautiful how you painted that picture, and in so many ways resonates. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all.
So I'm not sure what else to dive into here. We can talk like depression, anxiety, addiction. We could also talk about, how it's helped in business and entrepreneurship. We can talk about blends and how you guys came up with all these like really cool blends that include the nutrition. I kind of want to hear it all, and I don't know where to go next. So
happy to speak about, the lineup that we have, as far as our products go. we have really what we believe is something for everybody, and something for different occasions. What we're finding is, first of all, in the beginning, if you're brand new to microdosing, we have doses that start at 50 milligrams, which is 1/20th of a gram. And on that dose, which is really, I don't know any other companies doing a 50, but the reality is we've never had anybody come back and say that they felt something. And that's really the idea with microdosing. You don't generally want to feel anything, although I do think some of the other doses certainly serve a purpose. And so really we have doses that range from 50 milligrams of psilocybin to 100 to 150. Then we have 75, 150, 250, and 350. And then we have a full lineup of functional mushrooms that don't contain any magic mushrooms. They're functional mushrooms that you can go and find at any health food store. And yeah, to be honest with you, really proud of the products that we put together. So some are based around mental health and clarity and brain fog, and just trying to help people get off SSRIs. Whereas we have other products that are about connection with yourself and connection with your partner. So amazing for boosts and to balance out your hormones and to increase your libido in both men and women. We're really passionate about not just working on working with the underdogs, the people that need help with their mental health. We're really, we truly believe in human optimization as well. My partner is quite an athlete. And so one of the products that we've created is going over extraordinarily well with many professional athletes, including NHL hockey players, professional surfers, and BMXers. And it's one that we call the Perform. And it's a fairly low dose, but it's packed full of cordyceps mushrooms, ginkgo biloba, and ginseng. And what we're seeing is if you stack that with cordyceps mushroom, if you're hearing about this for the first time, is being used globally as a coffee replacement. Ash, do you use it ever?
Yeah, we do have it in powder form. It was actually, I think, not a banned substance, but it got most known because it was Olympic athletes or something like that were using it, or like a team. And that's how it was found. I don't know, maybe you know more of that story, but
I believe it was the Chinese track and field team, and I don't know when it was, but they just smoked everybody. They won all 3 medals. And instantly, the anti-doping agency was just like, "There's something going on there. We need to test these athletes and figure out what the hell they're on." And as it turned out, they were on cordyceps mushrooms, a completely legal mushrooms.
It's not even psychoactive. Some of our members call them Cheeto mushrooms because apparently they're just in their regular grow form. I don't know how well they grow around here. I haven't tried it.
No, I haven't either, but it is amazing. So that is really good for energy, really good for blood flow in the body, and oxygenization of the blood flow in the body. And so that's one of our products. What we're finding is that many people that are on an SSRI and trying to get off are going to need a bit of a stronger dose. And we don't start people there. We always recommend going on our lowest dose and then kind of working your way to a higher dose just to make sure that you fully understand how your body's going to react with the medicine. But what the scientific community is calling this is a blunting effect. So, the SSRI and the psilocybin is really trying to kind of attach itself to the same serotonin receptor. And so because of that, the scientists are calling this a blunting effect. And so you're going to need a bit of a higher dose to help bridge the gap of coming off of these SSRIs. It, for the most part, very safe to combine with a few caveats. But the reality is what we're trying to do is have people use microdosing as that bridge to help with this incredible withdrawal that can happen on these SSRIs. for anybody that doesn't know about this, about 50% of people coming off one of these SSRIs, it can be as challenging as people that are trying to come off heroin. These SSRIs were not designed for you to ever come off. They that's the business model, right? Like, let's get you hooked on this thing, let's get you addicted, and let's make you need it forever. And so
and we'll swap them out. If there's an incident, we'll just swap it out. And it's all you. It's all your fault. There's a chemical imbalance. Nobody's testing the chemicals in your brain to find out if there's an imbalance. They're just trained to ask specific questions and give specific pills. And if those pills don't work, well, here's another one and another one. And eventually, if nothing works, we'll just call you insane and get you on some other kind of therapy. And it's like, the system itself is absolutely crazy. And when I'm working with people coming off of SSRIs, it's like brain zaps that they'll get for a long time afterwards. Like, let alone the physical withdrawal symptoms, like you said, that can be as bad as like some of the, other drugs that some people lose their life over, like heroin or cocaine, or, it's very physical of, diarrhea and vomiting and feeling like literal death. So I think microdosing are really helping with that, as you said, like bridging that gap, but also, helping you build some new pillars along the way, so that when you do build that bridge again, it's more foundational, it's more sustainable than before, and it's by your choice, not your upbringing or whoever your parents' friends were was influencing you. You're doing it yourself with your own courage and knowledge and understanding today, which I think is much needed, like that rebirth,
100%. Do you know the stats on how many people are on SSRIs? I don't, but would love to know if you know.
No, but I'll look it up, and we'll cut to our sponsors right now. I'll look it up, and when we come back, I'll let you guys know. And then, just use the same link. Come on again. I'll see you in a couple minutes. We'll just share our sponsors. And see you in a moment. Bye.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
At Legacy 420, we believe in being different.
Experience the difference of quality control.
Our labs provide tested formulations for all of our products.
Experience the difference in trust.
Our customers can trust that we are following up-to-date COVID precautions for their safety.
Experience the difference in accessibility.
We're open 7 days a week. Please visit our website, legacy420.com, or contact us for curbside pickup as well as nationwide mail order shipping.
Legacy 420 values overall wellness.
Come and experience the difference of Legacy 420.
In February of 2022, the Victoria Cannabis Buyers Club and Ted Smith were fined $6.5 million. This for helping 8,500 patients with access to medical cannabis. In our interview with Ted, he spoke to us about how people can donate to help in an upcoming court challenge. And here is part of that interview. From what I've seen lately, I believe that you've got something that you're trying to do as far as fundraising to deal with this next court challenge.
For now, people can write checks directly to Jack Lloyd Law Corporation or send e-transfers to savethevcbc@gmail.com. I guess those are the two easiest ways for people to help right now.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Growing your own cannabis is easier than you think. Whether you're growing for recreational or medical purposes, BMA Hydroponics has everything you need to succeed. From the standard 4-plant recreational systems to the latest cutting-edge hydroponic equipment, BMA can customize your package and do it at discount prices. Visit BMA Hydroponics at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville and ask us for a free estimate. Or call 613-967-9888 and we will give you an estimate over the phone.
The only way to go.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
All right, you guys, welcome back. Keegan, welcome back. Happy to keep this show going because I found out some interesting stuff right before the show. Keegan asked me if I knew how many people were actually on SSRIs, and I kind of went down the rabbit hole a little bit on break. So I'm just going to share screen here, just what a simple little Google search showed up. I encourage you guys, please look it up for yourself. Let's see. So first of all, it says Canadians 12 and older. These are some of the medications that are normally prescribed here in Canada. But also the amount of population is just like increasing and increasing. So 24.3%. That sounds way higher than the 1% of people who, experience, what everybody's getting vaccinations for. This is a big change. And this is SSRIs. We're not even talking about the opiate addiction or anything. This is something that is so normalized, it's sad. Okay, here's the size of the market.
So Ash, just real quick, we can't see the page that you're on. It's on a different page, your screen share. It's okay. All we can see is the Zoom page.
Okay, let's see if this is it. Is that better?
There we go. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So the market size, and again, on this link, I'm looking up Canada. This is how much it was worth in 2020. I'm sure that went up within the last 3 years.
Wow.
Like, no doubt, okay? They're not even showing those stats on the first page of Google, probably because it's outstanding. And I didn't have a lot of time to look. This is just a quick little first page search. The US population, because I wanted to know that too. 1 in 10 Americans 12 and older. It's saying first line treatment, 40 to 60% remission rates vary. Up to 1/3 of people on drug treatment will develop recurrent symptoms of depression while on therapy. So even at that percent, they're still getting more depressed. Here we go. I wanted to know UK as well. 8.3 million. And the previous year was 7.9. So again, rising. And this is 21 to 22. We still have a whole new year. So it's rising. At least in the UK, they're putting their statistics up. Canada and US, they don't want to show us on the first page. So, it might be something I look into later. If you guys do, text me.
Wow. Thanks for getting into that. So just to circle back, did you say 24% of adults in Canada?
12 and older.
Holy shit.
And that was a rise previous years. That's not like post-lockdown, new world stuff. Wow. That was pre. So it's worth looking into. Here, I also wanted to know, what is this one? How much of the population in the world. So I typed world in this one. And again, we got that, 60 and older, it's 24.3%. When we're talking about younger generation, so it's like the older you get, the more you're on it. Maybe the happiest you'll be is I guess as a middle-aged man. I don't know. Again, I'm just lightly looking this up. So yeah, I encourage you guys do your own research. Don't count on what I'm reading here, but it's interesting. I also want to know the youngest people, and this one blew me away the most. At 8 years old, they're prescribing Prozac and Lexapro. 8 years old to some kids. That makes me that makes me feel a little sick and angry at the same time. Because I feel like no kid needs to go through that. How would they even go through the withdrawal symptoms? That's and being told there's something wrong with you, you got a chemical imbalance. nobody's ever tested these chemicals. You know, that's not that's what they're saying and what they're doing and how they're doing it. You guys need to be your own advocates. Look this stuff up. I really encourage that. I'm going to stop share here so we can see you again, Keegan. Is that better?
Yeah, no, thank you for pulling that on. That stuff is fascinating and shocking and scary, to be honest. Downright scary. Because yes, like in my experience, like I'm having conversations with somebody, you know, just as an example, the other day, this woman had gotten on an SSRI in high school. She got pregnant really young, had some postpartum issues, got on an SSRI when she was like 18, 19 years old. I'm talking to her now, she's 56 years old. And she's been on this thing basically her entire adult life. And what she found and what people find is it's really hard to access emotion. It's really hard to access joy and to find fun. It just seems to numb most people out. And if you're having a good experience on this, then honestly, all the power to you. I don't hear about those experiences.
Yeah, so, me either.
I simply don't. I hear a lot of people in way worse shape than even before they began. And
yeah, those long stretches, that long stretch, that's not exaggerating. I hear stories like that all the time too. It's like, you know, a teenager until, you know, they're 50s, 60s, and they're like in this new change and they're like, what's left of my life? You know, this is really a great medicine that's finding people at the right time. And again, it would have been nice if it was earlier, but it's still a really good time. You know, 100%. It's like planting a tree.
Yeah, very. I mean, and to be honest, like maybe just to leave some hope. There is hope. There's hope with mushrooms and other psychedelics. I witness it every single day. Extreme cases that, you know, I really just don't know, you know, which way it's going to go. And one of the success stories I had yesterday come through was just fascinating. I mean, this woman was really deeply struggling. Her and her husband got on a Zoom call with me and they were just so lost. And, you know, I was able to get some of our products in their hands in a certain protocol. And 3 weeks later, she checked in with me, and man, oh man, her life has started to change, and it's just such a beautiful thing to witness. And so if you are in that category, there is definitely hope out there for you, and microdosing can be a really great tool to help you bridge the gap to get yourself off of this SSRI medication. And if you don't mind, Ashley, what's coming to mind right now is something to share. You know, at the start of this, I had spoken about, you know, the goal was to always work, you know, develop products that were so well trusted that we can work with the medical community. And we're based out of Vernon, British Columbia. You know, we're very proud to have all of our products in a mental health clinic here in the city. It's called Family Matters Clinic. Stephanie Curtis is the head therapist there and the founder. And she was one of the first people to bring in every one of our products into her clinic. And so if you are a therapist or a counselor that wants to work with some of the best medicine in the country, please get in touch with me, because we are now, you know, on this mission to work with practitioners and therapists. And, you know, one of the things that we figured out is how can we do this to still stay above board, to still get the approval of their governing body. And at least here in British Columbia, we figured out a system on how to do that. And so if this resonates with you, I highly encourage you to get in touch with us. We'd love to speak with you. We'd love to work with you. And soon we'll be hosting an event where we're going to be educating other practitioners and being able to answer questions that may arise. And just to maybe just go one step further as well, you know, our wholesale program, you know, we have our products now in many yoga studios and wellness clinics, and our products just seems to blend so well with the communities out there such as that. And so we welcome you to get in touch as well if you're looking to work with companies that are extraordinarily passionate about bringing the best of the best to your community. we'd be interested in chatting with you as well. And we have some available openings to bring on some wholesalers in March. So please, if you're out there, I'd love to chat with you. Just a little plug.
Yeah, no, please. That's part of what this is for. You know, not everybody believes in that, but one of the things I was always guided to do was, you know, just collaborate. You know, whoever's doing this work, they've got such a unique edge to it, a unique story. And I think I was just meant to help in sharing that, you know, get these stories out there, show what's possible, you know, somebody who can, you know, wanted to die and was living that lifestyle to this person who's like, I just want to serve and I've got purpose. And, you know, like you're on it. You're like, I'm doing this and this and this. And it's always growing and expanding. And it's just a beautiful representation of how much you've grown and expanded. And, you know, these, one of the things that we like to say all the time too, it's from a Down with Webster song, but I love it. And it's, you know, I do this for free, but you can't pay your bills with compliments. So, you know, plug away. It's all good.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why we have you here.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Ashley, for just opening this up and providing a platform to speak about this. One of the things that I think is important for me to share as well is that I got to 5.5 years without a drink. And at about the 5-year mark, I had been having conversations with Elisa that I thought I was going to be able to revisit alcohol. I thought I had done enough healing to open up that door. And last January, we went down to Mexico to visit my mom and dad. And we were down there for 19 days. And on day 19, I just looked at Elisa and said, I think today's the day that I want to try to have a beer. And so she supported that. And you know, I didn't consider it a relapse because it was very much spoken about and in the air. And it wasn't just one day randomly, I've got a drink in my hand. So I did open up that door last year. And everything went really, really well for about 6 months. And then it didn't. And all of a sudden, you know, things started to kind of spiral. We took my dad's ashes back to Ireland in July. And to be honest with you, I checked myself back into a rehab facility in October of last year. I went to an all-men's treatment center in Vancouver for like 25 days. And so it's important for me just to share that side of the story is like, I never feel like I'm fully healed. I'm always working on myself. And right now, where I'm going right after this phone call actually is to go to my therapist's office, who I've been working with here in Vernon. She's one of the only master's trained therapists that I'm aware of in the region that is trained to work with this medicine. And I've been working with her for the past 2.5 months. And February 27th, I'm going in to do a massive journey with her, and it's going to be with psilocybin and MDMA. And there's a lot of work that's gone into getting ready to go into that to that journey. But I just thought it was really important to share that with everybody. Is like, I don't ever feel like, you know, I just felt like I needed to share that and just kind of get that off my chest. That yes, I had some real success. I went on a really good run, and then, you know, I got clipped by this addiction devil on my shoulder again. And, you know, again, like, it was just like, I didn't want this to go on anymore. And so nobody had suggested for me to go to rehab. Nobody had said, hey man, your drinking's out of control. But I knew deep down in my soul that I wanted this to end immediately. And I didn't want this to go on for any longer. So I went and nipped it in the bud. And, you know, I guess in some ways just kind of back at square one again, but certainly sober today and grateful that I went and just grateful that I can have these conversations. And I hope that somebody listening can relate and hopefully some of this conversation was helpful.
Yeah, absolutely it was. And, you know, I still want to applaud you. You know, you said starting back at square one or something like that, but really you're not. You know, there is going in circles, which is something that some people do, just repeat the same pattern over and over. But there's also a spiral where each time you grow out a little bit more, you notice this right away, you did something about it on your own, you took responsibility. That's the Toltec path to freedom right there. You know, that's something that sets aside an addict versus a recovering addict. You know, you're in that process, you're not at square one, you're, you know, still just recovering, you know. And I go through it too. I relapsed. It was long ago, and I can have a drink and have it be just one drink. I think my recovery journey started in, I got sober in 2014. I relapsed in 2015, and I was sober in that time. It's just been the last couple of years. I've had a couple of drinks here and there, and I never got to the point of drunk. You know, I get flushed. It was always a special occasion, and I would get like blush in the face or blush or something, and it's like, oh, okay, I feel it, and it's like, it's done. And one of the times I even I think it was the first time I let alcohol back in my system, I purged instantly as soon as it hit my blood system, my blood whatever. So, you know, I think the mushrooms help on both the physical level, but also with that reprogramming. Like, there's never a call to go further, even though in certain occasions, you know, maybe I say yes, you know, but I feel like that's part of freedom, which is a big part of who I am. So if I want to say yes, I want to do that, but I also want to trust myself. And that's something through this programming that just happened naturally. I didn't push for that. But I also don't fully believe in abstinence being the way. Like Bill Wilson and from AA and Carl Jung, they had a big talk about that. You know, this is published stuff where they were talking about LSD or any psychedelic, but mainly they were talking on LSD being one of those things to help you tap into spirituality so you can get sober and stay sober. That is exactly what it's been like for me, even before I had that knowledge of those conversations, you know. Yeah, and it's almost like the AA community is trying to bury that, which is such a shame, because Bill Wilson, the church, you know, at the time that this was going on, this is like 1959, and Bill Wilson started to struggle again with his sobriety. There was only 10,000 followers in the AA community at this time. And what ended up happening was he got offered to go and do an LSD journey, and he came out, and one of the visions that he had on this journey was that people were holding hands all around the world. And so he ended up actually, through that experience, like exploding the following of AA. Today they've helped, you know, millions of people, but the reality is yes, very well documented. Not a lot of people know about this, but LSD was very helpful for him to maintain sobriety. And a lot of that amazing research was actually done here in Canada. University of Saskatchewan, or somewhere in Saskatchewan, was actually one of the forerunners for some of this really amazing early research around alcoholism and psychedelics. And it's just such a shame that so much of that's been buried. So thanks for bringing that up. I think it's a very important point of conversation. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was so relevant in this as well. One thing I really want to touch on, like the midst of all of this, because we'll probably have you on again to like just dive further into some of the other stuff you're doing. But, you know, we're talking a lot about, beating out anxiety and depression and addiction. But, you know, this is also helpful for anybody who has already, you know, overcome these things or doesn't have an issue with these things. So I'd love to talk about some of the other ways it's positively affected you when it comes to business, entrepreneurship, productivity, just relationships, life in general, all these primary food. Yeah, sure. Also another important topic, right? Like, I think people get caught up in this and go, well, I'm not depressed, I don't have anxiety, why would I microdose? You know, what's fascinating is in the Silicon Valley, you know, for the last decade, so many of the creatives, if you go in for a job interview today, many companies, one of the questions that they're going to ask you is, are you willing to microdose? And the reason they do this is because they know that someone that's willing to microdose is likely going to just bring a different level of energy, of focus, of creativity to the project. Literally happening as a question
And so I'm glad you brought that up, because these products are also for the A players. They can really enhance. And so for me, every day is a little bit different. Every day calls for a bit of a different dose. So for instance, if I'm going to have a big workout in the morning, oftentimes I'll take, 2 lion's mane, 2 cordyceps, and 2 perform, and it just lights me up. And then, some of the heavier doses, like I still have those days. It probably happens like once a week. It's starting to kind of shrink a little bit, but there was some times on this project where I would just have unbelievable anxiety. I actually experienced panic attacks for the first time last year. And, as an addict, I needed something that was helpful for me to get off of the thought of, okay, I'm having a tough day. I want to throw my computer through the window. I'm going to go get a bottle of wine, or I'm going to go get some booze. What I do now is I'll reach for a stronger dose. So I'll reach for a 250 or a 350 milligram. And I'm not joking. Within 30 or 40 minutes, I seem to be able to get myself right back to baseline, where my head isn't thinking about that. And it's highly effective for me in situations like that. I also like to use the higher doses when I'm getting outside of nature. When I'm going for walks, when I'm going for jogs, when I'm going and walking or hiking. Have you heard the term hyperdosing yet?
No. Tell me a little bit.
It's taken off in the US. Like, hyperdosing is like a major thing in the United States right now. People
is it a hashtag yet?
No, I don't know. We should build it if it's not there. But it's to get connected with nature, to get connected and grounded. These medicines seem to work really well for me. I can tell you, I don't take any major, phone calls or opportunity calls without lion's mane. It has been so helpful for me, even before I came on today. It's just so helpful to clear the brain fog. And for anybody that doesn't know about lion's mane, it's a powerhouse cognition nootropic. Amazing for the brain. Amazing. It also creates neuroplasticity and new neural pathways. It's being researched today globally as one of the only effective treatments for early onset dementia. And so for me, sometimes it's hard to articulate. It's hard to articulate my thoughts. I've got ADHD, and I find that lion's mane and microdosing, that combination just goes so well for me. Hopefully that answered that.
Yeah. Lion's mane is one I personally love too, again, because of the anxiety and just, regulating that nervous system. Not to mention being in Canada, it helps with the cold, and with yourself, it would make sense too because of diabetes. So, there's, a lot of really great benefits to this, and it grows wild, It's great to have it in a capsule form and all that, but there's so many ways to access this. It starts with accessing the information though. So thank you for everybody who showed up.
Heck yeah. Yes. And yeah, it truly works. I mean, it really works for people. It works well for me. And I'm really proud to say that every product that we have on our menu today works exactly how it's advertised. One of the other things, I don't know if I mentioned this, but outside of the guide, we also have a live chat. So you can literally come onto our website, and if you've already explored the guide and you still have questions, 9 to 5 every single day of the week we have somebody operating it. I work it on Mondays and Tuesdays, so if you're ever wanting just to get directly in touch with me and have a chat, please come through on a Monday or a Tuesday and you can connect with me directly. But it's a safe place to come and ask questions and get more advisory. And again, no one else in the industry is doing this today.
Yeah. Oh, Keegan, this is so great. Thank you so much. And you've given so many great resources too. I know that a lot of people are going to reach out. Is there anything that you want to share? Anything else that's going on, or anything that, is really of interest to you right now?
Just stay tuned. Like what we have showing is really just a speck of who we are becoming. I think in many ways this is still just the beginning for mindful meds. But I think the one thing that was really important to me to share was kind of what happened to me last year, and get that off my chest. It's something I really haven't spoken about a whole ton on podcasts. And so that was kind of just, creating a space so I could free that out. It was very important to me. So thank you. And, I just want to say, just thanks for everything that you're doing in this community. Your commitment to helping people it shines through. Your content is, I think, some of the best in the industry. We often like to reshare your stuff, and I think you've got...
Same to you. I love sharing what you guys do, too.
Really, the education is amazing, but you find a way to bring it all together in this comedic kind of way, and just make it fun and friendly. So well done, and thank you for having me. And if you want to do another one, we can certainly do that, because we could probably rip all day on stuff like this.
Absolutely. Yeah, and we'll definitely do that. I got one last question before I let you go today.
Sure.
And that's, if I was to hand you a dandelion to make a wish, what would that wish be?
Wow. To me, I think there's still an enormous gap between people that believe in mushrooms and people that are still living in, the Stone Age, in a sense that they just refuse to look at this as medicine. So really just bringing, my wish would be to never refer to these medicines as drugs again, and to really start highlighting these as true medicines. And I think my wish would be to see mushrooms on everybody's shelves as a replacement of SSRIs and antidepressants within the next 5 years. And I truly think that we have potential to do that. So yeah, really great question.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I resonate so much with that too. One thing I'll add, though, I don't know if you knew this, but I learned in herbology was that drug actually means dried herb. So what the pharmaceutical is and how they label drugs is actually the wrong pretext. It's just that they took from the Native American word and then made their thing, and it still got associated with that name. And then the war on drugs happened and everything got labeled with this bad stigma. So it really is the stigma, not the word itself. But that's really besides the point, because I really understand what you're trying to say here. And I just wanted to bring the difference between that sacredity and that respect, and actually the pharmaceutical industry. The truth is, it's not this labeled drug. It's these traditional ways that are also considered these alternative ways, and this industry that is reliant on your dependency, and what these medicines are teaching you, which is different from, again, the pharmaceutical medicines, is how to remember how to liberate yourself and to be free and to take responsibility and be on that Toltec path to freedom.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. That's something I didn't know. I just, I was back in Calgary this weekend, and I saw my nieces, and they refer to me as a drug dealer to their friends, and I was like, and it was a joke, but it's one of those things where people still think that way, right? And so following that idea would definitely be a wish of mine.
Yeah, I said it this weekend too, actually, coincidentally. I was like, well, I actually, my whole business is on selling drugs, but it's not really, but I'm hooking people up, it's...
Yeah, I hear you.
And, all of that stuff. But I just, I think I was already highly emotional. And then at the time, I was like, why are people here saying that this is a bad thing? And I get it. It was just a high-stress situation. But I was like, if you got respect for me, I don't seem like I'm, some crackhead here. You guys are looking to me for answers. It was, why are you saying that this is a bad thing? It was my reaction wasn't the best, but I did catch it too, and it's that drug word. So yeah, thank you so much for your time today, Keegan. How can everybody find you? I'm of course going to share the links, but if you want to give a shout out to yourself again.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, come through our Instagram, mindfulmeds_CA. It's a private account. your Instagram has to show that you're 18 or older to find it. So it might be hidden. And so just change your settings on your Instagram. And then through our website, mindfulmeds.io. And like I said, if you're interested in connecting and talking about how we can work together as a collaboration, I'd absolutely love that. And we can just simply connect through the live chat on our website. So thank you. Thank you for introducing me to your community. And I hope we can all come together.
Yeah, me too. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, Ash. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
See ya.
Okay.
Hey there! Welcome to the special lesson of After School. I am Jasper from the Fungi Academy, and today we will be learning about the wondrous world of intelligence. So, let's dive into it. So, what is intelligence? We as creatures with brains like to think that all intelligence derives from the brain. To be honest, our brains are pretty good, and we have reasons to be proud of them. I am, after all, expressing myself on a device and in a language ultimately created by our brains. Go brains, yeah. Unfortunately, our brains have a big issue. They limit ourselves from recognizing any other kind of intelligence. Telling someone small-brained will always be an insult. Here are some examples of organisms that are undeniably smart, yet do not have a brain. The moon jellyfish can age backwards, form hordes of clones, and regenerate lost body parts all without a brain. Slime molds can survive as single-cellular organisms, yet like to hang out together. A very special slime mold, known as Fusarium polycephalum, can solve mazes, mimic and improve the layout of man-made transportation networks, and choose the healthiest food from a diverse menu. And all this without a brain or central nervous system. So, how do all these things happen? I don't know. I am just a simple creature with a brain. You don't even have to look around yourself. Look within. More and more research is showing that our state of mind and our mood is actually partially controlled by the microorganisms in our gut. It's called the gut-brain axis. Down in the gut, bacteria make over 90% of our neurotransmitter serotonin, which regulates our emotions. Wait, so you are telling me that my almighty brain is under the influence of tiny single-cellular organisms? Who orchestrates all of this? I don't know. I'm just a simple creature with a brain. Fungi, to me, are the best showcase of the unexplainable intelligence you find on this planet. You find them everywhere. All organisms depend on their actions. Even individual species can take up several independent roles in an ecosystem. Some fungi start a symbiotic relationship with a plant. That plant can become ill and might become a danger to the whole ecosystem. And suddenly, this symbiotic fungus starts acting more like a parasite. It kills the plant and eventually acts more like a saprophyte, breaking down the complex chemicals that have formed the plant's body into accessible nutrients for the next generation. There is some convincing evidence that all life on Earth derives from fungi. The first multicellular organism in the fossil record is a mycelium network. We know that fungi are capable of transforming solid rock into soil. We have yet to encounter a species of plant in the wild that doesn't form a symbiotic relationship with fungi. This is why I see fungi as the conductor of the orchestra of life. Like when trees evolved around 350 million years ago. The white rod, now recycling all the carbon that wood holds in its lignin, was not yet present. The trees would just get stacked on top of each other, keeping all the carbon they absorbed into the ground. This potentially led to a massive increase in oxygen levels. A high oxygen concentration in the atmosphere, over 30% compared to 21% a day, allowed insects to grow to massive size. During these times, you had dragonflies the size of crows flying around. All because fungi were not yet able to break down the lignin that wood is composed of. As the conductor of the orchestra of life, fungi must be incredibly intelligent, even without brains. A species of cordyceps, Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, are some of my favorite examples of the intelligence of fungi. Somehow, this fungus germinates in the body of, let's say, an ant, And instead of colonizing the whole body of the victim, it apparently grows towards its central nervous system and somehow taps into it. Not only does it know where to find the central nervous system and how to tap into it, it also knows how to control the physical, moving body of an organism not even closely resembling their own. It controls the ant to walk to a high place above the colony, makes it hold as tight as possible to a branch or leaf before it fully colonizes the ant. Eventually, when the whole body of the ant is consumed by the mycelium, it grows its fruit, spreading its spores over the colony below. That an organism without a brain or central nervous system like we understand in animals can do this?
What if I told you that there's a mushroom that grows on bugs? In fact, it doesn't just grow on bugs, it literally takes over their brain and eats their insides until it eventually fruits through their head. Luckily, humans don't have to worry about this fact because for us, this mushroom is a medicinal mushroom that's used for energy, for endurance, for immunity, and lots of other functional benefits. Of course, I'm talking about cordyceps mushroom, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about cordyceps as a medicinal mushroom, talking about how it grows, how it works, what compounds are actually inside of it, and what it might be able to do for you. Cordyceps is actually a genus of mushrooms that contains over 700 different known species. Now, cordyceps in general are parasitic. Some are parasitic to other fungi, while most are actually endoparasitic, which means basically that they grow on bugs. And you may have seen videos or photos of this where mushrooms are kind of growing out of the head and the body of other insects, and although this is super weird, it's actually really cool. Now, when it comes to medicinal cordyceps, there are two species that are relevant, and that is Cordyceps sinensis and Cordyceps militaris. Cordyceps sinensis is kind of the OG of medicinal cordyceps. It has a long history of use, and it grows by infecting the larvae of the ghost moth. The spores of the Cordyceps sinensis mushroom kind of take over the body of this insect, using its insides as fuel. When the caterpillar dies, the mushroom fruits through its head, which is why it sometimes gets the name caterpillar fungus. It's also known sometimes as the winter worm. And if you look at this mushroom, you can see the caterpillar part and then the relatively small mushroom part on top of it. Because of its complicated life cycle, Cordyceps sinensis cannot be commercially cultivated, and it needs to be wild harvested where grows in high elevations in the Himalaya. Cordyceps sinensis is rare, it is over harvested, and because of those two things, it is ridiculously expensive. It's definitely worth its weight in gold. In fact, it's even more expensive than that. Cordyceps sinensis can get up to $20,000 or even $25,000 US per kilogram. This insanely high price makes it completely infeasible to be used as a medicinal mushroom or as a mushroom supplement, which also means that it's likely if you do have a Cordyceps sinensis supplement and you didn't pay an arm and a leg for it, well, there's a good chance that the product that you're using doesn't really contain Cordyceps sinensis, or you're not really being told the whole story. The other important medicinal cordyceps is Cordyceps militaris, and I actually have some here, and as you can see, they do look pretty cool. Now, these ones are dried, so maybe they don't look too interesting, but when they're fresh, they look super neat. They're kind of wider and bright orange or yellow, and they really do look like Cheetos. Now, Cordyceps militaris is also endoparasitic, which means it grows on bugs, but it doesn't have to grow on bugs, which means it can be cultivated, and that makes it an excellent candidate to be used as a medicinal mushroom, especially since it has a very similar profile as other cordyceps that are revered for their medicinal benefits, and it can be cultivated, so grown commercially without costing $20,000 per kilogram. It is grown on a bed of rice and soy, but that doesn't mean it's mycelium on grain. For example, here is a commercial cordyceps farm, and as you can see, the fruiting bodies are grown, and the fruiting bodies are what are harvested. Now, cordyceps grows slowly in cool conditions with blue light to increase the concentration of beneficial compounds that are found inside the mushroom. If you do have a cordyceps supplement that is made from fruiting bodies, it is almost certainly Cordyceps militaris, and that is actually a good thing. Now, if we're talking about cordyceps from a medicinal perspective, we have to at least mention CS4, otherwise known as Cordyceps sinensis 4. Now, this is a strain of cordyceps that is grown in liquid fermentation. So basically imagine a bunch of cordyceps mycelium kind of floating around in a nutritious broth. CS4 is an anamorph, or kind of a vegetative form of Cordyceps sinensis, meaning that it doesn't produce a fruiting body. There's even some debate as to whether or not most commercially available CS4 is even Cordyceps at all, or if it's just some other species that's masquerading as Cordyceps. Still, there is some genetic similarity between CS4 and Cordyceps sinensis, and there are definitely some benefits from CS4 that are similar. There are a lot of compounds in Cordyceps, but the two that are most important are the polysaccharides and the nucleoside analogs. Now, polysaccharides in Cordyceps, or beta-glucans, are found in a relatively high concentration. Now, this is similar to other medicinal mushrooms, but it's why Cordyceps is known as such a powerful natural immune booster. The nucleoside analogs are what really make this mushroom special because they are a unique compound in Cordyceps. But why is this important? Well, true nucleosides are in DNA and RNA. The analogs in Cordyceps have a different structure, but are similar enough that they can actually be used in a lot of the body's natural processes. The most notable nucleoside in Cordyceps is something called cordycepin, the highest concentrations of which are found in Cordyceps militaris. Now, you might have heard of cordycepin before. It is the compound that is responsible for a lot of the benefits of Cordyceps, and it is unique to this mushroom. The benefits of Cordyceps are pretty broad and wide-reaching, and if you want to take a deep dive into all the benefits and check out some of the links to the research we used to put this video together, feel free to check out our full Cordyceps guide, the link to which is in the description below, but we'll go over some of the more common benefits in this video. The most commonly recognized benefit of Cordyceps is increased energy and endurance. In fact, it's sometimes referred to as the athlete's mushroom or the energy mushroom. There was, of course, the famous case of the 1993 women's Olympic running team that smashed a bunch of records, and eventually their coach came out and said that their secret sauce was Cordyceps mushroom. Now, although there is some debate as to whether or not this is actually a true story, there are a lot of studies done which show that Cordyceps mushroom can increase endurance. It may also increase oxygen capacity, or the efficiency in which we're able to transfer oxygen from our lungs to the rest of the cells in our body, which could help reduce muscle fatigue and help with overall energy and endurance. There was one study done on mice that were treated with Cordyceps militaris, and it showed that they were able to swim longer before fatiguing. Glycogen concentrations in their liver were also increased, which showed that they might have had more fuel, which means they would have had more endurance. Of course, there has also been some human studies done on this which were pretty interesting as well. A study of 20 healthy people aged 50 to 75 showed taking Cordyceps supplement 3 times a day for 12 weeks increased the amount of time it took for lactic acid to build up in the muscles and allowed participants to exert themselves more before getting out of breath. Another study showed supplementing with Cordyceps appears to improve energy output in sedentary and or elderly people, but not necessarily in high-performing endurance athletes, which could mean that the mushroom has more potential for people who haven't yet achieved peak performance. Basically, the more out of shape you are, the more likely you are to benefit from Cordyceps mushroom. Now, another reason why Cordyceps mushroom might be associated with better athletic performance or energy is because of its potential to increase adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Now, a lot of people know from Bio 101 that ATP is kind of the energy currency of the body and is produced in something called the Krebs cycle. Because this is a complex process, it's no surprise that the mechanism in which ATP is actually increased is still not well understood. But studies suggest it is done by increasing enzyme levels during ATP production. Somewhat related to energy and endurance is the potential benefits that Cordyceps might have on lung health. Practitioners of traditional Chinese medicine believe that Cordyceps could help clear excess phlegm production and improve lung function. Because of this, this mushroom has traditionally been used to address respiratory issues. Studies on lung inflammation, lung scarring, and lung injury offer some support to this historical application. In a mouse model of acute lung injury, which involves an acute inflammatory response, cordycepin appeared to prevent or block inflammation and reduce oxidative stress. There have also been studies done on cordyceps and asthma. A human trial investigated this potential by splitting 120 people into 2 groups. One group received cordyceps for 3 months along with their regular asthma treatments as needed. The other group just used their regular treatments. At the end of the study, this group that took the cordyceps reported better quality of life and their lung function had improved. It may seem counterintuitive, but the mushroom best known for energy and endurance might also have a calming effect. That's because cordyceps is a known adaptogen, meaning it can help support the body's natural response to stress. Although many other medicinal mushrooms share this property, cordyceps appears to work specifically by affecting nitric oxide production. Because nitric oxide increases in stressful situations, regulating this could definitely have a calming effect or help the body respond to these stresses. Like all other medicinal mushrooms, cordyceps also contains a high concentration of fungal beta-glucans, and because of this, it's useful for supporting the immune system. What's interesting about cordyceps is that it is known as a bidirectional modulator, meaning that it can either support the immune system or maybe suppress the immune system depending on what the body needs the most. Cordyceps might also be considered a natural antiviral because of the compound cordycepin. As mentioned earlier, cordycepin is a nucleoside analog, and it might be able to interfere with viral replication. This property, along with the power of beta-glucans, make cordyceps a perfect candidate for the ultimate immune defense. There's also some research that shows cordyceps might be able to help relax blood vessels and thus increase blood flow. Poor blood flow is one of the many known reasons for potentially low libido, so it makes sense that cordyceps mushroom might be able to help for this purpose. Further, there's studies that have been done on mice that might show a link to testosterone production, which also supports the thesis of cordyceps mushroom as a libido enhancer. So you might be wondering, how do you actually use cordyceps mushroom? Is it something that you can just fry up and eat, or is it something you can snack on? And interestingly enough, you can get freeze-dried fruiting bodies of Cordyceps militaris that are actually pretty tasty.
Mushrooms, particularly a mushroom powder called lion's mane, has shown some exciting effects in the lab where it encouraged nerve regrowth, which is incredibly exciting because right now around 55 million people have got dementia, so it's vital to find ways to prevent and treat brain decline. When lion's mane was given to mice, those mice had significant improvement in seeking out new ideas and new objects. So we've got interesting cell and mice data around nerve regrowth and potentially improved brain function. So what does the human clinical data show? Let's get into it. We'll start by going through exactly how lion's mane is proposed to work. Within our bodies, there's a thing called nerve growth factor, which is essential for the health of our nerves and brain. And the single cell data shows that if you give lion's mane, it seems to encourage nerve growth factor and therefore encourage the regrowth of nerves. But it's one thing to show that a molecule improves things for a single cell. It's an entirely different kettle of fish to show that that molecule, if you take it as a supplement, will improve nerves. So in 2012, a mice study was done showing that when a particular nerve is damaged, if those mice are then given lion's mane, it seems to encourage that nerve regrowth. It helps to regenerate that nerve, which is pretty exciting. And given all of this encouraging data around nerve health, the researchers wanted to figure out, would it improve brain function in mice? So like we've previously gone through, there is mice data showing that lion's mane, it did result in significant improvements in novelty-seeking behaviors and novel object recognition in mice. And in a new trial, it did show that lion's mane increased locomotor activity, as in the mice appeared to be more active. Now that we've gone through the preclinical work, let's have a look at the human data because that is what really matters. Starting with a 2009 paper that gave lion's mane to patients that already had mild brain impairment, and it was a double-blind, placebo-controlled clinical study. This trial involved 30 people, where one group were given placebo and the other group were given lion's mane, and the group that took lion's mane, they took 4 250 milligram tablets. And the study showed that the group that took lion's mane had significantly increased scores on the cognitive function scale. So looking at this, lion's mane looks to be fantastic for brain health. But it's important here to dial down into the paper, because if we just read these abstracts and conclusions, we can be easily led astray. So diving deeper into the paper, we can see that the placebo group, so the group that were taking the dummy pill, they also had an improvement in their brain function, as well as the lion's mane group. This is concerning because what we're demonstrating is a thing called the learning effect. If you sit the same exam over and over again, you're going to get better results because you're going to know the answers. And this is exactly what we see in this paper here. It's a small trial, and what we're demonstrating is the learning effect. And it's quite tricky in the small trial to figure out, are there any true effects from lion's mane, or is it simply the learning effect? So diving deeper into the paper, I'm not sure that I agree with the final statement from these authors. They say that the results obtained in the study suggest that lion's mane it is effective in improving mild cognitive impairment. I think there's an interesting signal in the data, but I don't think that we can definitively conclude this. It seems to be a similar story for a 2019 paper. So again, this was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study, and it looked at lion's mane for a period of 12 weeks. They conclude that oral intake of lion's mane significantly improved cognitive functions and prevented deterioration. So if we just took that at face value, lion's mane looks fantastic. But when we dive deeper into the paper, then the problems start to occur. So this paper, it used 3 separate kinds of cognitive tests, and it was only one of those tests that actually showed a difference. So it was the mini mental state exam, which is the exam that I use in my clinical practice. But if you have a look, the differences are very, very small. They're not clinically relevant. This is a score out of 30. So if someone scores 30 or 29, it doesn't really change my management. So yes, we can see a statistically significant difference here, but how clinically relevant is that? And again, the other 2 tests that were done didn't show any difference. So we've got a very, very small difference in the mini mental state exam, but for the other 2 exams, there was no difference. And the final human trial was another randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study, but this one was over a 49-week period, which is fantastic. It's actually giving lion's mane a chance to work. The study results say that there's a significant improvement in the mini mental state exam observed in only the lion's mane group. But once again, diving deeper into the paper, there was actually no statistically significant difference between the lion's mane group and the placebo group. So again, if we just read the conclusions of the paper, we can be easily led astray. But if you dive deeper into the paper, the differences are very small, and it's not clinically relevant. The point I'm trying to get across here is that if we measure a lot of different things in a study, we might see one interesting result and ignore all of the other things that didn't reach statistical significance. And when that happens, authors will often mention that in their conclusion, and that can sometimes distort the true results of that paper. So in this example, if we just took the conclusions for lion's mane, it looks to be fantastic to improve brain function.
Massively resilient, adaptive organisms. So powerful, so important. Reality is not limited to the perception that we have traditionally used. Fungus. Some of them can feed you, some can kill you, some can heal you, some fungus. Some of them can feed you, some can kill you, some can heal you, some fungi. Lucid dreams. Stay there. Reside there. Lucid dreams. Stay there. 30.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
What do you find at paceradio.net? people advocating cannabis education.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.